This headline came out 2 weeks ago, and it doesn't get juicier than this. Palantir and Anduril are joining forces with other tech groups, including SpaceX, to bid for Pentagon contracts. This comes a couple weeks after Palantir and Anduril did a joint press release. I think this was early December or end of November, where they announced building this consortium to be able to more effectively implement different software platforms for the government, and that they would try to have a joint effort to pitch different ideas for the government. What was your reaction to this? What's the deeper story here? Obviously, Elon Musk followed Palantir on their Twitter account the day this press release dropped. Do you think there's an Elon angle here? Then we got all the Doge stuff. I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. I'm going to let you get the floor in freestyle. But what's the Doge tailwind? Why is Palantir working with Anduril? Is Elon going to give us $1 billion of contracts? How are you interpreting it?
Well, we have no idea. Like I said, with the 2025, it might be rocky. So we really don't know what the contracts are going to look like in terms of all defense contractors, not just Palantir. I just do want to make one little shout out to another special individual before I forget. And everybody watching, you can hold this person accountable. Palantode, I expect the boost of the server by market close Monday, if not 1 month mute. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. He wanted a shout out. He got it. So, with the consortium, it's actually very funny that you mentioned that, because literally last night, as I'm laying in bed, just scrolling Twitter, going on brain rot, I saw that Lockheed Martin actually is developing a consortium with Finland, with Finnish companies in Finland. Huh. So, it really sparked my interest. I'm like, I mean, Lockheed doesn't need a consortium of help within the United States. They got that down on lock. But it just really was like, why did they do that? And it made me think it's because I think overall, and I'm going to go just in a general Western civilization, and between the United States, NATO, and obviously other of our allies, they all are starting to get on the same page. And you see that with them starting to spend a little bit more on defense. And I think they know that, let's just call Lockheed as the, number one player in the world when it comes to defense contractors and stuff. So they got, so they're going to their allies and saying, look, we're going to be fighting with each other. We can't be internally fighting with each other because you want this, $500 million deal. We got to win the deal. You'll win with us. And more importantly, we'll win everything together. So I think that's what's happening. And it's not just about dollars and cents. It's about making sure that they win the war if it actually happens. So back to America now with Palantir, Anduril, SpaceX, Shield AI, and I forgot the other ones. So first off, I think everybody at this point understands the relationship between Palantir and Anduril and Shield AI and even SpaceX to a degree. But just a little background. Anduril, basically Palantir's sister company. And I think everybody needs to understand, because I do see it still after 2 years, Lattice is its own thing. It is not connected to Palantir. It's not built on Foundry. It's not built on Gotham. It is an Anduril product. It has nothing to do with Palantir. The integration that they can use Lattice within a Foundry, that's the MOSA, if you will. So just getting that out of the way from just a software standpoint, because obviously we're not going to be going into the market and producing our own Roadrunners and Barracuda that, Anduril is doing. Obviously, we are doing Tenebris, but a little bit different given the partner we selected for that. But that's a different conversation. So the reasoning why I think this is happening is basically the same reason why those Finnish companies said, let's go, Lockheed, let's go. Is they're coming together and they're going to be able to say, Mr. DOD or Uncle Sam, if you award our group this contract for, let's just say, aerial robotic vehicles, sort of like drones, just whatever, they're going to be able to say to them, if you give us this contract, you can give it to us for $3 billion versus $5 billion. And the reason is why is we're going to have SpaceX that's going to do, the orbital delivery, and that will cost $5 or whatever. Anduril is going to manufacture the hardware and put it together in conjunction with Shield AI. And then Palantir with Shield AI and Anduril They're going to combine all the software together, and together we're going to create, as Karp says, a software empowered hardware product that's going to deliver better results at a cheaper price than the competitor. And that's the ultimate goal for what the warfighter and the product should be.
Right.
Better, cheaper, faster at the trajectory of going forward. So that's really what the consortium is we're going to bid on this together. We know that. And sort of like Titan, when they bid on Titan, we had no idea it was with a team of people. We didn't know it was officially with a team of people till they got the award. And we didn't know I kind of had an idea it was going to be with Northrop and maybe L3 and others, but we didn't know officially it was with Northrop, L3, Sierra Nevada, Anduril. We didn't know that. So that's really how you have to look at this going forward. And take a look at the robotic combat vehicle. I'm more than confident that Palantir said to Anduril, you deal with the hardware. We'll use Lattice for that portion as well. We'll take care of the rest. And Palmer probably said, all right, I'm going to go back to my mod retro and go back to playing Pokemon or whatever. And, they have a very good working relationship. So I think these other defense contractors like a SpaceX, Shield AI, Anduril, obviously there's a lot of, I'll call it, infancy connections with Palantir, with Peter Thiel. And, obviously the Thiel connection runs deep between Palantir, SpaceX. Obviously Palantir invested to beginning with, and Palantir employees with Anduril. Shield AI got a big, $200 million investment, if I'm not mistaken, from Palantir or, one of their people up there. So they're very Palantir connected. So that's why this consortium, they're going to go in, and the next contract, and I'm just going to throw one out there because this is sort of on the topic that we're talking about. And, shout out, like I said, Bobcat Gang 007 and, DV is, the other day we found an opportunity for basically radioactive biological monitoring within the atmosphere over warfare area, war zone areas. Palantir doesn't do that.
Right.
But L3 does. So L3 can put a bid in for it, and we know that they're deepening their relationship. And L3 can say to Palantir, hey, we're going to do the majority of the hardware, and we have the software, but we need you to be able to connect it to, these different command centers or whatever. Done. And then they're going to win that contract for, this, service. And that's why all these companies you're seeing saying, you know what, we're going to partner with Palantir because they know, and they have said this for years. They don't want to mention Palantir because they don't want to be associated. Now that it's a cool thing to be associated with, it's the first thing they're going to say because you know what? It's going to get people's ears to prick up and it's going to get their foot in the door. So that's why these consortiums and these partnerships are deal. So when you see, like on Friday, only 2 people won contracts. Northrop won a contract. Now, I don't think it has anything related to do with Palantir, but when you see Palantir partners win contracts, you have to see what they're winning the contract for because Palantir might be assisting them in that effort. So going forward, like the robotic combat vehicle, that's Palantir and Anduril. When they do, the next crazy, maybe Replicator 2, they put out a bid and they say to Shield AI and Anduril and a few of the other companies, we understand that you got Replicator 1, but we want to bid out Replicator 2 just to see if anyone does the counter side better than you. For those that don't know, the Replicator program is basically drone swarm warfare. The first one's attack. The second one is counter. So they're not going to be able to say, no, don't do that. Just give it to us. They're going to say, okay. And they're going to say, let's partner with Palantir and this and them. And they might win Replicator 2 for the counter portion. So it's really, really going to be interesting going forward to see how the consortium plays out, how these contracts for opportunities are going to go, how they're going to be bid on, who's going to be the lead, how does the revenue get split up. So like, because even in terms of Titan, we have a question mark. How does the revenue get split up? Because Northrop's going to need to get a piece, Anduril's going to get a piece, L3's what is the final bottom line dollar amount in terms of Palantir? All question marks for the future, but it's future growth.
Do you think Doge is actually going to be a tailwind in terms of how that government commission, that's unofficially a government commission, tries to figure out how software is procured and who gets the contracts? Or do you think it's this kind of marketing thing that Elon's going with to try to expose that the government's spending money in a bad way, but in reality, they can't control how Congress allocates capital?
So I have my very good politics side, the change my mind guy meme, and it's not showing, but it basically says politics aside, Pilly the fucking best, change my mind. And as it relates to Doge and politics, like I said, it's very, very hard to see what they are actually going to do. Because on January 21st, I don't think if you are, a secretary for the IRS, I don't think you're going to walk into your office on January 21st and see you have been terminated, please take your shit out. Like, I don't think that's like, we have no idea really what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
and when the Doge thing came out, it even came out that they have to deliver a document or a thesis by 2026. So they may spend this entire year doing absolutely nothing but just writing down what they see and what they should do to fix it. And that's probably what's going to happen in this year. Then 2026 is going to come. They're going to deliver that document, and they're probably going to, if they do what they're set out to do, and if you do support not Elon, but the idea of a less wasteful government, politics aside, then you should be supporting this stuff. Like, if you saw some of the stuff that they were digging out, like $500,000 for guinea pigs on cocaine, what? Like, why? That is the most useless, wasteful, dumbest shit I have ever heard. So that's the dumb stuff that I think everybody in the country can agree on. We don't need to spend $1 million here, and there to learn about cocaine addiction for guinea pigs and rats.
Right.
They can do that on a private clinic. Now, with some of the other stuff that's coming out, again, we don't know what it's going to take effect, how it's going to affect the budget, how it's going to affect jobs and all this stuff. But I'm just going to go off on a basic information technology standpoint. And I work very closely with a city government agency. So I work very closely. So I understand that there's a lot of bureaucracy and stuff that goes into this. And I'll give you an example. I'll have an order, and depending on who the order is with, I'll get you the purchase order by the end of the day. No problem. They put it in, they get them. I guess they make a phone call, PO's there. Any other person, 24 to 48 hours, whatever it might be. Now, the person behind the computer is manipulating the system to obviously put that through. That's the only way it works. If you just take basic information technology, and Elon is very good at this, they are using software and computers from like the early 2000s. So even if they just get rid of that and they just bring in a modern laptop that was built in 2024 and is using modern software that was, even if it's fucking Microsoft, just from an operating system standpoint, but they will have access to Foundry and all these other, SaaS companies because it's all cloud-based. That alone is going to improve efficiency. It is mind-boggling that in the year 2024, that it sometimes takes weeks to process stuff, either because the person on the other side is just saying, 3 o'clock, I'm going home, or because the software is overloaded because it was built in the 80s. It can literally only handle a couple requests because there's millions of people using it. It can't handle it. So if Elon just goes in with a basic standpoint of saying every computer that was built 2010 or earlier is being replaced with new tech, with new software, with new, features and widgets that are going to improve efficiency and make it quicker. And think of that with like the healthcare sector. You see that like with NHS and their healthcare partners. The idea is to get people better service quicker and faster and cheaper. That would be the basic thing from an information technology standpoint. So take the IRS, for example. IRS loves Palantir. Maybe they can say to somebody on Doge that they know. I don't know how these relationships are. They could say, you got to come in here. You got to get rid of A, B, C, and D, and just give us Palantir and, you know, and Amazon, whatever it might be, just something. So it's going to take a year to really see what they find, and then another couple months to see what goes into effect. So I'm very much looking forward to it to see what happens. I think it will benefit the taxpayer. Like I said, for some of these ridiculous things, everybody should be like, yeah, that should be cut. Like, the big thing is with the government and the waste, in my opinion, is Social Security. That is something they are not going to be able to get rid of.
Yeah.
And they can kick and scream and say, we're going to do it. And this is my own personal opinion, and I've seen this on Twitter many times before as well, is if they want to talk about taxation as theft and this and that, get rid of Social Security or start this year, it just started. Any citizen born, you put $50 into an account like an S&P, you let it compound over and over and over and over and over the person's lifetime. They can touch it at 18, but if they do, there's a penalty, and you do it up into a certain age, and then you incentivize them to keep it in there. And that will replace Social Security, and they can add to it X amount of, maybe they can add, $5,000 a year, whatever it might be, and it's tax-free. You don't have to pay Social Security. There you go. So there is so much things that they can go and do and cut out and improve. But there's going to be a lot of stuff that they say they're going to throw at the wall and will not happen. And I'll just take RFK for an example. And I'm in full agreement with him of trying to get the processed foods and the artificial sweeteners and all that crap out of our, nutritional system, because that's really the killer. So he might be able to pull off some of that stuff, but they're not going to be able to overhaul the entire United States government within 4 years, in my honest opinion. Now, if they do, and if Vance wins or another Republican, and they have another 4 years, then they might really start putting stuff into effect. But the country is going to be the ones that are going to have to say, we like what we're seeing, continue, or they're going to say, we don't like what we tried it, we don't like it, we're going another route.
Yeah, I think if you and I are counting on Social Security in the next 35 years, we are literally idiots, because there is no way in hell we're going to get the types of benefits that people are getting today. I do think, and Brad Gerstner has been talking about this, you give every newborn in America $3,500 in an S&P account they can't touch really till they're like 35. That would cost us about $3 billion, which is nothing. And that would compound to around 70, 80,000 by the time they're 35 years old, which is like amazing. It's incredible,
And if they're able to contribute to it, the whole point is to incentivize people to add to it and to keep it there. That's the key, to keep it there. Social Security, it's funny. They take your money out of your check, then they keep it there, and it's like, oh yeah, look how great we did. We saved you. You got $80,000. It's like, dude, I'm 70 years old and I need like $300,000 now. And you just completely screwed me, because the money that you put in Social Security, I could have put into an S&P account. I could have put it into, there's 1,000 things that are, quote, safe that I could have put it into that would compound more.